Hey, how's it going, guys? It's Spazzy here with Manhattan Metagross and Matt, whatever you want to be called.
Matt Metagross.
I don't even know.
Yeah, anyways, go on.
Yeah, I'm gonna go on. So, are we just gonna go right into the power rankings, or?
All right, here we go. Week 2.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
we had in last place, at least for myself, the Hamilton Cats and Coach
Teleporting zone.
I hate his name. Teleporting Zone, yes. I don't like the name, but even less than the name, do I like this guy's attitude towards the whole game.
He blamed it on
If you
hacks
listen
and stuff, but
Yep. He doesn't have a mindset to grow. He's the only O2 team that doesn't have any mindset of growth. And if you watch, not only does he not have the mindset to growth and blame the entire match on hacks, when his opponent tries to extend a good GG to him, the guy says "F you" and closes out. If you listen to his Height of the Battle, it's just a real shame that Teleporting Zone does not agree with the way that we want to do things and just have a little fun here in the UAPB, or as Tup says, the United Association of Peanut Butter Battlers.
I like that name.
So, anyways, moving on. Who did you have for 12, Spazzy?
12, I had the same thing. I switched it up. I had Hamilton Cats.
All right. And I didn't even necessarily dislike the way he prepped or played, but his mindset both towards this specific game and the game and league as a whole is just so poor that I can't see him growing, being able to prep better, being able to play better, and in the end, being able to win.
Okay, I have a question before I go on with this. Is your name Matt?
Yes.
So, as Matt said, power rankings, Bristol City Bennets. Oh, you go ahead and say it.
All right. Last week, I said that the Bristol City Bennets played well enough that even the hacks could not have beat them. And
so that thing could apply to pretty much everyone here.
This can apply to any match. If you play well enough, hacks won't beat you. And yes, hacks happen. It's a part of Pokemon. We have to accept that we are playing an RNG-based game. But you can play well enough and prep well enough that the hacks won't matter. And that's all I have to say about the Torcats. So moving on to 11.
Just gonna say now, you aren't going to grow if you just blame things on hacks and not look at the way you're playing.
Yep.
You need to work on that.
Just the sportsmanship was not very good in this match towards the end. But anyways,
really, it kind of sickens me to see people like this.
Yeah, it's real shame. But moving on, the Houston Dynamo was an 11th for me, and Spazzy has.
I had Okay, so, but on here I just put Casper because that's easier for me. So I'm just gonna call him Casper.
Interesting.
Okay.
So I had the Lake Guardians a decent amount higher. We'll start with the Dynamos, and I would like to add Dynamos. Let's see. I believe that they did not have their own game last week. They are a replacement coach, if I am not mistaken. Because we did have 2 replacements this week. And, but anyways, the Dynamos did not necessarily do poorly. However,
A bit of stalled.
I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. If I remember correctly, they had a mistake in prep that cost them hugely. And as we all know, prep is 60% of this game when it comes to leagues.
30% is good plays.
Yep.
10% is fun.
Yep.
Maybe.
So, but let's see here. Anyways, you can, while I look up that replay really quick to double check what I wanted to say, you can talk about your number 11, the LA Lake Guardians.
Okay, so before we started this, I looked at the replay just to see put Casper or LA Lake Guardians in the right spot here. So before he was at number 12 until 12 spot there is right now. And Casper did make some questionable plays. His prep was pretty good. With some of his plays, like Focus Blast Sceptile here, that is pretty good for the Registeel. Going for it the first time, he's just like, I would not expect. I don't think the opponent would expect this. But going for it this second time, making really, he made plays kind of were obvious, but realized the obvious plays that were coming at him. So he could work on that, but favorite word, but I don't really have much to say here.
Anyways, I did find the Dynamo's replay, so oh yes. So the Dynamos took over for the Giratinas, who had given them a 6-0. So they were already lower in our rankings, unfortunately for them. But he had something which was a huge threat to his opponent's team in his Electivire. And he played so riskily with it. And additionally, he decided to leave a Toxapex in on a Zygarde, which I do not understand why.
Had the Ice Beam though.
The Ice Beam,
but the Ice Beam wouldn't have done much either way.
It did 40%, but the second he saw that, he could just switch out into Tapu Koko. And then turn 7, he lets his Havoc, aka his Electivire, take 60%, which does enough to effectively knock it out of the game, which was one of his 2 biggest threats to his opponent's team. And then afterwards, his Masquerain, which was the other big threat he had, just stayed in on Tapu Koko, even though it didn't have any coverage for it, which I found to be a questionable play. Had he packed an HP Poison to make sure he could hit that Tapu Koko and take it out, I would have agreed with the play, but because he let Tapu Koko do so much to him, he ended up going down to his Sash and lost his ability to sweep. And from this point on, his entire plan just proceeded to go downhill after he essentially lost his Electivire and did lose his Masquerain. The 2 biggest threats to his opponent's team went down too early. So, preserving win cons essentially is the name of that game. Anyways, sorry about that. We will move on to the number 10 slot. And we both have the New York Gliscor.
Yeah, we have something.
So
definitely not like last week though.
Now, yes, the Gliscor's lost. Yes, they are 0-2. But the way they lost this week, they did such an excellent job in the end game. You see, the Gliscors bluffed a Scarf on the Manaphy the entire game, and even though it wasn't enough to win the match, it brought it back from what should have been a 5-0 or a 4-0 down to a 1-0. Additionally, he forgot some EVs, which, yes, is his own fault. However, it potentially could have changed the match and given him the win, depending on how he played. And the fact that he essentially handicapped himself and still managed to make that huge bluff and bring it back to a 1-0 was very impressive in my opinion, and in my opinion enough to warrant being above the Titan Ammos and Torcats. Spazzy?
Really have much to say about the New York Gliscors. Scarf Manaphy there?
It was not Scarf. He bluffed a Scarf.
Oh, he bluffed the Scarf there. But didn't he say something about it was supposed to be Scarf?
I watched the other side of the match. I watched Casper's side, and it was not Scarfed, but Casper was so convinced that it was Scarfed in the end game that he lost tons to it. Because when
because I swore it was also Scarf, because I looked at the chat and it said something like, wait, what? That shouldn't have outsped. Like, I'm Scarf. What? Apparently, if he bluffed that, then...
No, it was the, no, that was his opponent that said that, because...
Oh, I don't remember.
The scores bluffed it the entire match. I think it hit
that
the
was
field
actually, that's
5 or 6
actually
times.
pretty impressive.
Never switched a move. Outsped everything that it went up against. As long as nothing outsped it, he was able to keep the Scarf bluff alive. And his opponent was so convinced it was Scarfed, he never found out it was Scarfed until the last turn of the game. Or that it wasn't Scarfed.
Not long for him to figure it out. I don't blame here. I'm just really impressed that he was able...
I mean, so just the fact that he bluffed that Scarf kept him in the match. And it was very impressive.
How did everything... What was his... what did he have?
Well, what happened was everything that was faster, like the Crobat or the Sceptile, switched in on a move that either knocked it out or got momentum. Because the Sceptile switched in on 3 U-turns, and the Crobat switched in on an Ice Beam. And those were the only 2 things that outsped. And he never switched moves the whole match.
Now that is how you bluff. I was lost in train of thought.
A Scarf. It was a very excellent playing of that Manaphy late game. So, moving on to my number 9, the Nebraska Neuverns. And what did you have in your number 9, Spazzy?
Number 9 was Houston Dynamos.
All right. So,
the
reason I had the Neuverns here was because he faced the Minnesota Monfernos and proved what I've been saying since post-draft. Any fire type with any form of fighting coverage ended his entire team. So, what he did is an Infernape was brought against him that only had attacking moves of Mach Punch, Close Combat, and Flare Blitz. It ran through the Noivern's team. And I've been saying since the very first power rankings, the Noiverns cannot handle fire types. And my theory was proved correct in this match. So, Spazzy, what did you have for the Tynamos?
Okay. So the thing here is, I put him at 9. Actually, a little more impressive than Ghost before he left. I just was not impressed because of the way he could. Did he have? If he had a calculator up, then maybe that could have helped him a lot more.
Tynamos has only had one game. Yes.
Had he had calculators up, worked out a little more. Because he switched in. He switched into his Electivire on a Coco and just let it void by a Dazzling Gleam. It's an instant 2-hit KO.
So it was, you know,
threats there. Gone.
The thing is, that was one of his win cons, which was huge for him to lose. However, had he got that prediction, had he switched out Thunderbolt there, it could have won him the game. I disagree with the play entirely, but I do understand why he went for it.
Nah, I didn't see much issues with his plays.
But
I would have put him a little higher.
Just the fact that he risked his 2 win cons to that Tapu Koko way too early.
As a tip, just don't do that.
Well,
stack your win cons.
Yeah.
Especially if you have Calc up, you're not, and you're certain about switching in and taking a hit, then do it.
Yeah.
But
especially on Tapu Koko, which honestly you never know what hidden power Tapu Koko is gonna run, because it gets just good enough coverage that it doesn't always need to run what you'd expect for a hidden power from an electric type. Because a lot of times, an electric type will run hidden power ice. However, it gets the Grass Knot and Stab Dazzling, which pure ground types and water ground types die to the Dazzling Gleam. To the Grass Knot, and Dragon ground types can't take the Stab Dazzling Gleam. So, the only time that it's more worth it to run the HP Ice is when you're facing a ground flying type, so a Gliscor or a Lando. And obviously neither of those were on his team, so he knew that that thing could have run HP ground, which would have destroyed his Electivire. It was way too risky of a play at that point.
But plays like that just did not impress me. Everything else was actually pretty good.
Yep. Anyways, moving on to number 8, the Oklahoma City Thunderous. And what did you have there?
The Washington Weebows.
Alright, so
I just couldn't place him in anywhere else. It's one of those places again where most of these I just had nowhere else to put them.
Please, can you explain why you had the Weaviles lower than the Thunderous, where I have them?
Well, why? I honestly just completely forgot why. All of my reasoning is gone.
So,
one of those
it helps.
things.
It's alright. It helped Reviles play at the Tyrant. That was the match you're referring to.
There you go. That's my reasoning, because they played the Piratas. You played top and
I was
solo.
I just so anyways, my spot went to the Oklahoma City Thunderous. Now, they did have a huge bounce back this week, which I have to applaud them for. They did an excellent job bouncing back. However, if you look at their first week, they underperformed week 1, which is a huge reason. I just felt with the way he played this week, he is getting more accustomed to the team. So, but it's hard to put him
Sorino,
up.
little okay.
I'm just taking a look at something real quick. Yeah, the main reason I had him low, that's right, is because of the fact that his win is over the Dynamo and his loss is to the Neuverns. Is a strength of schedule. Both of the teams he's played so far are lower than him in my power rankings, so I could not put him any teams he's played have not been two top-notch teams. So, due to that, I decided to put the Oklahoma City Thunderous in our number 8 spot. And moving on, the Los Angeles Lake Guardians were my 7th spot. And you had?
Okay. So, at number 7, I had Nebraska Neuverns.
Alright.
Same reason here, I just had nowhere else to put you. I just couldn't put you any higher.
So, I had the Lake Guardians. And first thing I want to say is great bounce back this week. I can't blame you for thinking that the Manaphy was scarfed because of the way it was played against you. But the fact that he kept his win cons around well enough that the second it wasn't scarfed, he had a shot. Now, I would like to add, Lake Guardians.
The second it wasn't scarfed, it wasn't scarfed the entire time. So
I know, but the second you realized, it was realized that it wasn't scarfed. I would like to add your skating on thin ice. This was something where your incorrect read almost lost you a match. And you can't make assumptions about an item like that when you have to make certain assumptions sometimes, but until you have proof, you can't accept that that's the only possibility. And because you did, it almost lost you the match. However, you did win the match, and you played the early game extremely well. So I had to give you credit for that and put you in my number 7 spot. So, please explain your pick of the Nebraska Neuverns.
Okay. So as you said, he had that huge fire weakness. In this case, but for this power rankings, this is not for the draft. I cannot blame him for his team being too weak to fire, because he has no actual fire resist here other than Tyranitar and Lomomola.
Yep, and
so I cannot blame him for that.
And as we saw this week, Lomomola was set up fodder for that Infernape. Infernape came in on a Lomomola.
Infernape
comes in on a Lomomola.
Destroyed his team.
Infernape comes in, sets up 1 SC, and sweeps. And that was the match, right there.
Okay, I have one thing for Flame here, but I'm not going to go into that until I get to him on the power ranking.
And so
Here, I
moving
cannot blame him for the fire weakness here. He had almost nothing for it.
I think that's something, though, that it is with his team, and he's going to have trouble with it in future weeks. And I do believe that is something that we have to hold against him until he makes a transaction, which helps his team with that. Now, I will check. So,
check.
I will check to make sure that there isn't one that I missed.
Okay.
No, I do not see that he made any transactions this week. So,
Hey,
anyways.
actually get it. Like, what is there available that can resist fire?
Well, let's take a look. Tier list. Because this is a huge weakness to their team. So, there is both the Latias are still there, which are excellent fire resists.
Oh, that could work.
There is Starmie, Volcanion, a 4x resist and an excellent breaker.
I think he could do something with that Volcanion.
Gyarados. And is that the only one? Slowbro.
Okay.
Slowbro's
Okay,
there.
Slowbro. That's nice.
And then every single tier has some form of fire resist in it. An immunity in tier 3 with Shandy. Which also gives him a fire type, which I don't believe he has. And offensive fire types are always a good thing to have in the format. I'm gonna double check here for the Noivern. No, they do not have any fire types. So, but as I was saying, every single tier does have an option for him. So he can fix it, but for now I can't put him any higher than I had him down at number 9, just because of that weakness. So, moving on. Number 6, I had the Washington Weavile.
For number 6, I had Minnesota Monfernos.
Alright, and you said you had something for Flame. What is it?
Okay. So the things that I've noticed was his plays were really, really weird.
Elaborate.
So first, he led Rotom, which is good. And why he went for Will-O-Wisp on the Conkeldurr coming in with Guts, which is what happened.
The Gutsmon switched in. To be fair, it wasn't. He didn't directly go for it onto it.
Yeah.
And
But
also
the switch in to the was a little.
And the Iron Fist was a huge possibility, especially against his own team. His team was very weak to an Iron Fist or a Sheer Force variant of that.
Yeah, he could be hoping for Iron Fist, which does make sense. But Guts also works really well in this situation. So
yeah,
it's about that.
Conkeldurr is always a hard mon to play around when it comes to that because you don't know what its ability is.
Yeah.
So the second you
I
know,
I can't really blame him here. Now, another thing I can
go on.
Question very much is, wait, he's the one with the Absol, right?
Yes, he is the one with Mega Absol.
the opponent's last Pokemon was a Mamoswine. And he had a Rotom there. Okay, he already realized his mistake here. He was in on something, but then he switched out into Absol on the Stone Edge here.
Oh,
now,
that.
I'm not... He did that.
No. To be fair, in his own commentary, he did
Did you
admit
notice that?
it was a it was a misplay. He was expecting, I believe he was expecting a ice shard to try to pick off his Rotom, because his Rotom was extremely low. I believe it was at 8%. It was low enough to where an ice shard could kill. So he was trying to catch
Either way,
that
I
ice
would have
shard.
just sacked off Rotom. I would have just sacked off Rotom and then went into Absol.
I agree with that, but if he got the prediction right, he would have still had Rotom around, which could have been huge. But again, he did realize
Rotom was
his
pretty
own
much
mistake.
dead.
He did. It had pain split though. It could have pain split back up on a couple things. But
I don't think Rotom would be able to pain split. Stay alive to pain split.
there was I think it outsped one thing that it could have done that on, if I remember correctly. The Alomola.
Mamoswine was the
still
only
around.
Pokemon left.
Oh,
I think he could have done.
well, I'm thinking of earlier in the game. Yes. However, that was a misplay. However,
Yeah, I
he
can't
still won
blame
the
him
game.
too much here.
He still won the
One
game.
thing
and
that
he
I
admitted-
noticed-
he admitted his mistake, which is huge.
Yeah, that's good. At least he noticed that. Another thing I noticed too. Mola, which is just fine. He killed the Alomola, and when Scizor went in, I'm not sure. Did it go for punch on the bullet punch?
No,
To be honest, and if it couldn't kill, then
I'm wondering
Remember.
if. See, so I agree. I think that a mock punch should have gone off just to weaken that scissor. However, I do believe that he had a calc which said it should not have killed.
dip off at most.
But like I was saying, I think Flame had a calc that said the bullet punch could not kill his Infernape, so Infernape would have stayed alive long enough to get the Flare Blitz off.
Per way though, I still would have gone Mach Punch.
It was, yeah. Ah, here it is. He forgot. He said he forgot. If you listen to the commentary, he forgot that his close combat dropped him to -1, and which
That cocked it in there.
yeah, and had he been at neutral defenses, he would have survived the Mach Punch. I mean, the Bullet Punch.
Yeah, but
So
either way,
that's-
I still wait. Wasn't it Life Orb? Was it Life Orb?
Yes. So regardless of what happened that turn, it would go down. So I think he
Mach
wanted-
Punch.
so I think he wanted to make sure that the scissor came down with him on the Fire Punch. So it was at about 9%, I believe. So I think he wanted to make sure that no matter what happened, the scissor went down, and then the Bullet Punch did end up KOing him because of the defense drops, which it's a miscalc. Happens to us all.
Yeah.
Anyways, in my sixth place,
This I can't really blame him for.
in my sixth place, I had the Washington Weaviles. Now, the Weaviles, they did, admittedly, get blown back by the Paratitas. However, they didn't make any massive misplays, and they did an excellent job of making sure that the Jirachi couldn't touch them, which is something last week we noted Tup's opponents did not prep for the Jirachi, and he didn't make the same mistake. However, the reason he lost this game was because of how whittled he let his team get overtime. This was something where no one play ever lost him the game. Just the entire game, he slowly let himself get whittled down because of the plays he was forced to make as Top continued to play better and better. He got his hazards up early. The second he realized his opponent did not bring a defogger except a potential defog Mega Altaria, he sent in his RA dose and got up his webs, which could have won him the game under different situations. He played the Lando well, and his Hitmonchan did put in a decent amount of work. It survived a Rachi Psychic, which super effective. A Psychic from Rachi should not be survived by a fighting type. However, he EV'd it well. And when you EV something well enough and give it the right set, you get a couple clutch survivals. And that's how things... He prepped perfectly, and just as he played, the team wore down over time, and at the end he was just able to get cleaned up. Which, unfortunate, but he played well. Just played better. Moving on to number 5. I had the Monfernos here. What did you have at number 5?
I had the Oklahoma City Thunderous. That was a little too sudden. You weren't even done with the question, I still said it.
It's alright. So, why do you have the Thunderous so high?
So high. It's just, there are a lot of people, in my opinion, that deserve lower spots. Well, the prep was nice, but the matchups and stuff really was... I should have put him a little lower, in my opinion, because his opponents so far have not been that...
Yeah, that's why I had him lower.
And this week...
I need to see him beat someone high up in our rankings.
If you beat Top Crimson, I'm going to put you high.
Is that how he plays next week?
Hey, does he? I don't know. I just said tough because why not? We all love tough.
Okay, see Thunderous. The next match is the New York Metagross.
Oh no. Okay.
So there's a challenge, and if he can win that, yeah, he'll prove himself. In my spot, I had the Monfernos, and simple enough reason. He saw his matchup. He knew he had one Mon that ran through his opponent's team, and he used it at the right time. And it just kind of wrecked house for a while. He could have played the end game better, admittedly. However, he did an excellent job in the early to mid game to make sure his Infernape was in a position where it had a chance to sweep. And even though it didn't, it was darn close.
Like, had he not miscalced, things would have probably gone a little different.
So,
how much Mach Punch would do?
I'm not sure, but moving on. My number 4 was the Houston Reggie Rockets. Who did you have for 4?
My number 4, okay, that was over 2-7 once again. My number 4th spot was Pittsburgh Pirates.
Alright, so I had the Reggie Rockets here because they had, even though their win was over the Tynamos, they had the 6-0 week 1. Still the only 6-0 we've had. And they didn't have the greatest showing week 2. But when you still have that 6-0 under your belt,
Can be pretty high.
yeah. He just had such an impressive week 1 that I could not find a way to drop him very low week 2.
I didn't drop him very low either. I think I just dropped him 1 because of something he could not stop.
And if you look at his opponent, the Metagross have swept 2 people. He's played. His loss was to a very high caliber opponent, and his win, although not necessarily to the best opponent, was still the only 6-0 we've had all season. So I have to say, Houston Reggie Rockets, go out there and win next week. Why did you have why did you have the Piratas at 4th?
Same thing as always. Don't know where else to put them. You just had nice plays, but other people above you had just deserve it more.
All right, so moving on. 3rd place, I had the Pittsburgh Pirates here. Now, I have to say one thing. Tup, in the match, you played excellently, and most of your prep was incredibly good. However, you had one move which could have changed the entire flow of the game and possibly given you a 6-0. Tup, why on earth did you have Flash Cannon?
Wait, Flash Cannon on what, Jirachi?
Yes, on the Jirachi. Because I'm looking at the matchup. Psychic hit all but 1, potentially 2 things, as he did have a Protean user. His opponent had a Protean user in Kecleon. Regardless, he needed either HP fighting, which is legal on Jirachi, because Jirachi is it's a legendary that's older than Gen 6, I believe. Gen 6 and 7 legendaries cannot have HP fighting, little known fact. However, Jirachi is a Gen 3 legendary, meaning it can have any hidden power because guaranteed IVs were not introduced that early. So, either HP fighting or water pulse on Jirachi changed the match from a stall fest into, when he set up a sub on a Houndoom, he dealt... I'm going to pull up my calc real quick. I believe that his set did approximately 60% instead of just only having the option to Toxic. And plug it into my calc. Jirachi.
Wait, no, what is playing in the background?
Let's see. No, it's there. It was yeah. Never mind. It's so standard sub toxic because I realized Tup did have specialized DVs. However, I would like to double check something. So, had he had either Drain Punch or HP Fighting? Drain Punch?
He would have probably gone a little.
HP Hidden Power Fighting. I'm sorry about this, guys, but I'm sorry about this, guys. I really need to calc this just to make sure I'm correct. Instead of even looking up his investment, I'm running Timid Nature, so it drops the attack just like Tup had against a Mega Houndoom. I hate how you have to type in Megas weird in this calc. So standard versus standard, even though neither set was technically standard.
Or I just heard my name from that.
HP Fighting did at minimum 40%, and Drain Punch did average 40%. So instead of having at most flash cannon, %19 to hit it, it had
I'm not
at
the one
least
stopping it.
40%. It had at least 40%. He doubled the damage output by bringing a fighting or water move over flash cannon, which would have been huge within the match. So, moving on.
Did I discuss my... Wait, what were we on?
Reggie Rockets. Maybe you didn't discuss the Reggie Rockets.
No, I did
please.
not.
It's really nice prep from what I saw, such as like the two with the Persian and then taunting and stuff. That was something good too. But I had to -1 spot. Again, you could not stop.
Additionally, they did lose.
They did lose, yes, and they got
So-
4-0'd, I believe. But
It was, again, to a very high caliber opponent. But
which is my number 2 spot.
again, they did lose. So, moving on. Number 2, I had a team I was shocked to see move down after the win, the Bristol City Bayonets. And in second, you had...
The New York Metagross.
Now, I had the Bayonets drop down for a few specific reasons. Number 1, the Bayonets, their wins, well, their week 1 win was incredibly impressive. And I also had them as the best team in the league coming in. However, their week 2 opponent was, to make sure I have this right,
Teleporting
the Hamilton Torcats are number 12 seed. And admittedly, even though I disagree with the way Hamilton handled it, the miss on the icicle crash could have hurt that Ditto's longevity, which was not necessarily huge, but it definitely caused Hamilton to play on tilt. I do want to know how that game would have turned out had the miss not happened. However, he still put himself in a position to win at the end of the day, and I couldn't bring myself to put our number 1 team any lower than that. If this is his slip up, other teams are going to have a rough time facing this guy. So, why did you have the New York Metagross at number 2?
Go sleep.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, just to mention this, the New York Metagross had not played their week 1 match when we did our first rankings. So yes, while they did get a huge 4-0 sweep, we were not aware of it until after the rankings were recorded. So that is why they were not in our week 1 rankings. Just wanted to clarify that.
Joke's here. The way he EV'd it though, I was expecting it to be special attack. But he was life orb.
Nihilego?
You mean? Yes,
Yeah.
Nihilego. Meaning nothing. Rice had could switch in to from a life orb. Meaning it could set up easily.
So here's
Yeah,
the
I
reason
liked how he made
I
it
liked
speed.
this is something that a lot of the Ultra Beasts can do. They can bring a stat to boost that you don't expect. The exception being Pheromosa, it's always gonna boost an offensive stat. There's no way around it. But
If it boosts
Heligo?
defensive stat, no, that's impossible. Pheromosa.
No. Formosa can't. No. But you look at it. In Heligo, you always expect the special attack boost. So you bring a Scarfer to outpace it and nuke it. And then it brings speed set. And Kartana can do the same thing. Kartana is a lot harder because you have to drop it down to 19 EVs and have a timid nature. It's very specific. However, it does work. And then you look at Celesteela. Any of its stats besides speed can be boosted. And I think there's actually a way you can boost speed, but you have to put 0 or 3 EVs or something in every single stat, which is obviously less than ideal. And then you look at Buzzwole, can be a defense boosting set, which just walls any physical attackers. And Guzzlord, which I don't believe is drafted. Again, any stat but its speed can be boosted. So every single Ultra Beast has a trick up its sleeve, and you always have to be ready for it. And alright, sorry, we had a little disconnection cutout issue here. So anyways, moving on to number 1. I have the New York Metagross, and the reason I had them at number 1 instead of number 2 where Spazzy had them was the fact that they've taken a team that they did not draft themselves. They've taken over the Geelong Torcats as a replacement coach. They take that team and sweep twice with it. And
Pretty good.
the second week was a pretty creative sweep on top of that. It's a special thing to be able to win with another coach's team. Several coaches in this league do not have the ability to do that, myself included, and many coaches in any league don't have the ability to do that. I don't know. I've never seen a coach command a team as well as he has without drafting himself. And so you look at his match this week. The Houston Reggie Rockets. And boy, the Reggie Rockets got a 6-0 last week, proving they are a team that you have to be worried about every single week. However, you look at this week's matchup, and you don't see any of that.
I just see pure destruction.
Yeah. Nihilego is the number 1 kills leader right now, and it's because of the coach who's using him. I mean, first off, the specs on the Vikavolt was huge. Like, he saw a weakness and exploited it. We were saying last week with my number 1 seed, the Bristol City Bayonets, you have to put yourself in a situation where even hacks cannot beat you. And that's what he did this week. He got crit on his Gligar very early, weakening his best check to a Victini, the only thing he had that could switch in. And what happens? He goes on to beat that same Victini. And
Okay, I thought you were gonna cut out again.
no, just the way he played around it was so incredible. He saw the lack of hazard removal and decided, I'm spike stacking. He played around the Mimikyu incredibly well. I don't think he broke the disguise on the Mimikyu until it was at 30%, He was at 30% before the Mimikyu's disguise was ever broken because of the leaf seed. And then he was just able to spiky shield stall the Mimikyu all the way down. And Mimikyu just wasn't a threat by the end. Now, sacking Magirna's always a threat, and so I thought that was kind of interesting that he'd do that, but regardless, he played around Victini, and very early on, just absolutely ran through his opponent's team. So, congrats to you, Ultra. You are now my number 1 seed. Now, what do you have to say about the Bayonets?
Okay. The Bayonets here, and the Metagross in first. I could switch that up right now. I'm gonna just. It's hard. If I could put them both in the same place, I would.
Yes. These two were very close this week. I will admit this because.
I'm just gonna say right now, they're both.
Yeah, they might as well both be first
place. How's that?
Obviously, we have to have an order, but if you look at it, both teams have had very impressive wins, and it's kind of hard to tell at this point because we don't know what the Metagross are going to do with their team. And the Bayonets, they have the strongest team. However, they did falter a slight bit this week. So both teams have room to grow. No, not at all. He played excellently. Like, he slipped in comparison to his week 1 performance, which was phenomenal and gave him a number 1 seed. It's all gonna come down to who wins this head-to-head. Honestly, when do they play head-to-head? Just out of curiosity.
I don't know. I don't have the thing
Week 6. Week 6. So until then,
3 more now from
until that point, they're both candidates for our 1 spot. Until one of them gets knocked off, or they play each other, either one can take this number 1 spot. It's really hard to tell right now. Spazzy, you there?
Oh, it's my turn to talk now? Okay.
Editing, the magic of editing.
Okay.
Go on, Spazzy. 3, 2, 1.
Okay. So here I could not find who would be in front here other than the 2nd and 1st place. I think they should both have 1st place, but I had to choose one.
So why did you end up choosing the Bayonets?
Chosen the but they did something that just could not be stopped. The issue... Well, no, I don't actually have an issue. Up, hide. Like, I don't put people in 1st place because they swept. Sweeping is something that just cannot be stopped. And I put Bristol City Bonnets.
No.
And he did a pretty good job. Great plays and prep, and did a good job crippling down the team with the para a bit.
Now, opinion. You said a sweep cannot be stopped.
Well,
now,
it can be,
Metagross
but...
have swept twice. Is this a player, or is this just a circumstantial sweep?
This week, though, it just doesn't look like it could be stopped.
The sweep happens in my opinion, in prep.
Yeah,
The way
so
that-
great prep.
So as far as this point though, the Bayonets, they're looking solid. So for the Metagross, we have 2 front runners right now with Tup very close behind, holding on to that 2-0 record. But we just have to see what the future brings. Well, all 3 teams could go down this week. We don't know. We don't know what's going to happen this week. We don't know what's going to happen next week. All we know is that this is going to be one heck of a ride for a season. So,
And before we end this, I'm gonna say now, in regards to okay, well, I can't speak. 12th place here, guys. I know we're still on this, but please don't have bad sportsmanship and drafts and stuff, or anything, as a matter of fact.
yeah, I believe that was, unfortunately, the overreigning tone of the week. But, sometimes humans are humans. We all make mistakes, and, next week will be...
That was then, this is now.
Next week will hopefully be better. And speaking of next week, that's when we'll see you guys with our next power rankings. Until the week 3s, see you around. This is Matt Metagross and Spazzy signing off.